consider a very fortunate person. The reason is that I have three wonderful teachers, my medical students, the Himalayas, and the little babies that I take care of as a neonatologist, a newborn and premature baby specialist in my intensive care unit at my hospital in Brooklyn, New York. One of my favorite people is Rabindranath Tagore, Indian poet and Nobel laureate. He rightly said, "The mind that is sharp but not broad sticks at every point but does not move. There is no point in being intelligent and sharp-minded if there is no width of vision, if there is no breadth of perspective." As an associate professor of pediatrics, I love to teach my medical students under a tree in a park close to my hospital. We have music for the first 10 minutes. We get the musical instruments that we love and we play them, and this is followed by the didactic teaching. If I am in a really bad mood, I might actually make them hug a tree and talk to a tree just to make them push their comfort limits. When you are in the midst of nature, the barriers go away, the inhibitions go away, and the mind becomes open to learning. I love the Himalayas. They have been my spiritual guide and master for the last several years. I particularly remember a beautiful journey that I made just 2 months ago. This was at 13,000 feet altitude in the Indian Himalaya. I spent 3 days living in a cave over there. It was a one. This solitude, I was just faced with myself and my thoughts. There was no room for ego over here. I then proceeded to go and live under a tree, again at 13,000 feet altitude, a short distance from the cave. This was not a tent under a tree. It was really, actually under the tree. The tree protected me from rain, it protected me from snow, and it was so beautiful just to be in the arms of nature. I felt entirely one with the universe. There is a particularly beautiful memory which comes to mind, and this is actually a trek, a hike that I did in the Indian Himalaya, a remote part of the Indian Himalaya called the Pin Parvati Pass, many years ago. There I was, standing in 5 layers of clothing, shivering in sub-zero temperatures, and here I see these group of monks, these sadhus, just chanting away, just in delight, wearing hardly anything except a loincloth, no shoes, no sandals, no slippers, walking with me for 2 weeks on this trek on the glacier. My mind did a double flip. I thought, hey, I am a medical doctor, I am a man of science. This is not making sense. This is not physiological. I even went there and examined their feet to see if they had frostbite, and their feet were entirely fine. This was a very good lesson to me because it taught me that there were so many questions there that I did not have the answers to. I spent a few weeks at a very beautiful ashram, a hermitage, in Rishikesh, in the lap of the Himalaya. I went there with a lot of questions, and I had some of them answered for me. So I thought I would share a couple of these questions with you. My first question was, at a practical level, how could one gain peace of mind? And the answer I found was there are many ways to do it. One of them is to be one with nature. The Himalayas, for example, make you feel that you're one with nature, one with the universe. And when you are in the midst of nature, you are able to live in the moment And when you are able to live in the moment by moment, then you are able to recreate yourself. You can be reborn moment by moment, every day of your life. We should try not to get the past into the present. That is going to mar the present and destroy the present moment awareness. The past is important in that accept the past, learn from the past, and then let go. Letting go was so important. I also learned the value of meditation. We tend to think of meditation as something exotic, as an add-on to our everyday life. But in reality, meditation is as important to us in everyday life as is eating and drinking. Meditation helps us to center ourselves, and it helps us to have dispassionate observation. My next question was, how can one find the time to meditate? And then I realized, when the passion exists, when the willpower exists, time will always manifest. I am a neonatologist, which is probably among the busiest professions on planet Earth. Yet I find the time to meditate, I find the time to climb mountains, to hike, to trek, to teach medical students, to do research, and also to volunteer as an art guide at a city museum in Manhattan. I feel that we started by inventing time to serve us, and somewhere along the line, the paradigm got flipped, the rules got changed, and we have ended up becoming servants of time. And my last question to them was, can work be our meditation? And the answer to that is most definitely a yes. My babies are my meditation. I get up in the morning with my heart beating faster, absolutely in love with what I am doing. When people ask me, where do you work? My mind takes a somersault. It thinks, work? This is not work, it's little babies. I am there to help babies, to serve babies. How could this ever be work? So work definitely can be our meditation. However, we have to release the attachment to the outcome. The moment we are focused on the result, we are going to get stressed out. We are going to have diabetes, hypertension, peptic ulcers, a whole bunch of stuff, and the magic of the work goes away. I asked the same question to a very wise person at the ashram that I was at. And this was his answer. He said, yes, Nitin, work can definitely be your meditation. However, he gave the example of how we make yogurt. How you make yogurt is that you take a pot, fill it up with milk, and put a little bit of yogurt in it. Then you leave the pot entirely undisturbed in a corner. And after a while, the milk becomes the yogurt. If one were to go and keep on shaking the pot, the milk is not going to turn into yogurt. Therefore, just like this, the mind also requires some stillness. It requires some quietness. And therefore, formal meditation every day, some period of quiet time is as important as regarding work as our meditation. I'm going to end with a little story. This is a story about a little girl who was born at my hospital at 31 weeks of pregnancy, so born premature. This little girl's name is Gianni. Gianni had a very difficult time when she was born, requiring extensive resuscitation to save her life. Little Gianni was a little bit different from other babies. She was born blind in one eye, she had no nose, and she had a misshapen head. What was striking about this little girl, however, was her willpower, her immense determination to live, to fight, and to survive. We resuscitated her, and she was in our neonatal intensive care unit. After a few days, this little girl got a seizure, and we realized that the pressure in her brain was so high that it required a neurosurgical operation to relieve it. As Gianni's doctor were quick to prediction to her mother and to tell her, hey, there might be very little chance that your baby may survive. And even if she does survive, there is a very high chance that she is going to end up with major disabilities. What we did not take into account was her mom's determination, her love for her baby. She looked at me and she said, Dr. Ron, I really feel that one day my daughter will walk and she will be able to speak. 2 months passed and we ended up discharging Gianni home, still supported by a lot of technology. Gianni and her mother ended up moving out of New York and we lost contact for a while. 6 years passed, and just 3 months ago, one morning, when I was doing rounds in my intensive care unit, one of my nurses came to me and she said, Dr. Ron, there is somebody to meet you at the door. I went out there and there was this mother and her 6-year-old daughter. This girl took my hand, pressed it to her cheek, and she smiled. She had a tracheostomy, a hole in the trachea to help her to breathe. She then covered this tracheostomy with her fingers, which is the only way a person with a tracheostomy can talk. She looked at me and she said, I wanted to come to this hospital to meet the doctor that saved my life. And she smiled again. I realized this is little Gianni and her mummy. Gianni's mom told me, my little daughter is always happy. She is always smiling. Very rarely do I see her sad. Very rarely do I see her depressed. And as you can see, she can talk quite fluently. And just a few days ago, she started walking without support. And she said, I am so grateful to the doctors and the nurses of the intensive care unit for having saved my daughter's life. This was one of the happiest days of my life, to see this little girl do so well. We spoke for about 30 minutes and then Gianni and her mother left. I went to the bathroom, I locked the door and I cried in sheer joy and utterly humbled. This little girl had made me unlearn my conditioning, and she had thrown my heart open to the power of love. What was my take-home message from this? I have learned never to underestimate the power of love. Time and again, this lesson has been taught to me by the little babies in my intensive care unit. This needs to be like a mother's love, entirely unselfish, entirely without barriers, without boundaries. And I have seen these babies, so many babies, born so sick and end up doing so wonderful just because of the love and the compassion surrounding them. I really and truly believe that it is love and kindness which makes the world go round. Thank you.